Okay, well, good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar. Before we get started, I'm just going to pause for a little while people join the room, just to make sure that you're actually in and you can hear us before we start. So if you are logged in, if you wouldn't mind just give me a thumbs up or put a comment in the chat just so that I know that you can hear me okay, that would be fantastic. Awkward silence while I wait for some thumbs to appear. There we go. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So welcome to this afternoon's webinar. My name's Steve. I'm going to be your host for this afternoon while we're talking all things apprenticeships. And I'm joined by Lewis from our apprenticeships team, who's going to have something to say to you a little bit later on, just to give you some more information around how apprenticeships work and how we can support you with an apprenticeship through the college. Now, obviously, we would love for nothing more than to be running a normal open event at the moment where you can come in, you can look around the campus, you can speak to our tutors. You know, they're the things that everyone says they really value about coming along to those open events. You know, unfortunately, I can't do the showing you around the campus bit at the moment. If you really want to see that, then we've got some brilliant 360-degree photos that are up on our website, so you can see some of the facilities. So although I can't do that bit at the moment, what I can do is give you access to our staff to tell you a bit more about the programs and to answer your questions about them. So that's kind of our structure for this afternoon. Just some general housekeeping bits before we start. That chat window over to the right where you've let me know that you can hear me. If you've got some questions that you want to ask Lewis, maybe in response to his presentation, or maybe you'll hear me ask something and that will make you think, well, actually, what about this? If you can pop those questions into the chat for us, and we'll make sure that we pick those up for you. Hayley is looking after you in the chat this afternoon, so Hayley will try and answer some of those questions, and we'll also flag up the ones that I'll be putting to Lewis on your behalf. So please do use that chat window. Just another thing before we start, you should see on the right hand side of your screen up at the top a tab that says polls. Now, just so we know who we've got in the room this afternoon, if you wouldn't mind just answering those quick questions for me, please. So it would be really useful for us to know whether you've already applied for an apprenticeship through MidKent College, or whether you're just looking for some more information this afternoon, and also whether you are already with an employer who is supportive of you being an apprentice. So if you wouldn't mind just answering those questions for us, please, then we can make sure that Lewis feeds the right information into his presentation for us. Okay, so we haven't got all of the answers in there yet, Lewis, but I think it's fair to say we've probably got a mix. So we've got people who have already applied, and perhaps some of that haven't yet applied as well. So we'll try and get that balance right in what we're talking about this afternoon. And in terms of employers, the answer we've got at the moment is not yet currently looking for an employer, but I know you're going to come on and take us through some of those issues around how important it is to have an employer, but also what to do if you haven't got one. So brilliant. Thank you for that feedback. What I'm going to do just before I hand over to Lewis is just play you a quick introductory video from our principal, Simon Cook, who obviously just wanted to give you a bit of a welcome to this afternoon. So I'll just play that for you now.
Hello there, I'm Simon and I'm the principal of MidKent College. It's great to be able to talk to you, and I so wish I would be able to talk to you in person, but virtually, hopefully your opportunity to get to know a little bit more about the college will help you with your decisions that you need to make. So over the next 30 minutes in this virtual open event, you're going to have an opportunity to meet one of the tutors from your chosen subject area. Really make the most of that time to find out what it means for you. Ask some questions. No question is a silly question. Please ask whatever question you've got. Take some notes, but make sure that you've got the info that you really need to make that decision about what you want to do in September. And if you're really not sure what you want to do, then you're not the only person. There are lots of people every year that we see, it won't be any different the current year under these current circumstances, who really don't know what they want to do. There might be even some of you who are thinking you really don't know what to do because you see what's going on in the world and you're not quite sure what job prospects there may be. By the time you finish your programme, the world will be a different place again, and there will be many more opportunities then that may not exist now. So talk to our staff about it. And also don't be frightened if you don't know what you want to do. Have a look at some of our other sessions. Come into other sessions and see. What's really important, and one thing I say to everybody who comes into the college, you must feel comfortable with the people that you're going to be sharing your next few months and years with. And I want you to feel comfortable that you're going to be able to flourish and thrive as a person, not just study a qualification, but flourish and thrive as a person with those people you talk to. So if you don't get any of the answers that you think you need in the virtual session, we've got a brilliant team on our course inquiries, and we've got a brilliant team in our careers office who will help you navigate the language, what options there are, and for you, what's the right thing to do, which is a question we often get asked every year. I hope you enjoy your session, and I really, really hope that I get to see you very, very soon at the college, and we look forward to welcoming you with us in September, if not in person, virtually, that's for sure. Good luck.
Okay, well, thanks to Simon for recording that welcome for us. And what I'll do now, Lewis, if you just want to get yourself ready, I'll just pop your slides up. So as soon as they're there for you, I'll hand over to you. And like I said before, if you've got any questions, if Lewis says something that makes you want to clarify something, then pop a question in the chat and we'll pick that up a bit later on for you. Thank you. Lewis, over to you.
No worries. Thanks, Steve, and welcome to this afternoon's session on apprenticeships. So the first slide that we're looking at is why an apprenticeship? Why do people think apprenticeships are good, viable options? And actually, as it says, this is a piece from the National Apprenticeship Service where they've said 3/4 of apprentices have agreed that their chances of earning higher wages in the future increase because they looked at an apprenticeship. 90% of apprentices said they got to go on to a full-time job or further training once they finished their apprenticeship. So there's so many opportunities there for you joining an apprenticeship, and an apprenticeship is there available for anyone of any age, and they now start anything from level 2 right the way through to level 6 degree apprenticeships. And there's so many opportunities to both start on one apprenticeship and progress and move on to another, and as we say, you can go right up to a degree in apprenticeship with your employers. But apprenticeships have changed. We've been going through a reform over the last few years, and the big change is that we're now working with apprenticeship standards. And the model that you can see on the screen is the new apprenticeship model of how an apprenticeship would work. And what we now do is we bring you in onto an apprenticeship. We do an initial assessment with you. We find out where you are, what you know, where you're starting from, and then we take you onto the on-program learning. And that on-program learning is supported by your off-the-job training. So that's what you get when you come to college. That's what you get when you're here on site potentially, or doing distance learning with one of our tutors. You'll get your on-the-job training, which is what your employer delivers, and they support you in the workplace to develop your skills. And that's all supported with learning and development. Alongside that, with any apprenticeship now, English and maths becomes a vital requirement. And to go through what is now the assessment gateway to what is the new element of an apprenticeship, an endpoint assessment, you will need to look to achieve a 4 in English and maths, or a C, to get through that gateway. If you don't have that, don't panic. It's something that we can deliver. We can support you. We can help you develop your maths and English skills. But it is something that you need to be aware that you have to achieve as part of your apprenticeship. It is supported within our study programs, but within an apprenticeship, it does become a vital requirement. And that on-program learning could be a year long. In some of our longer programs, I know our degree programs, that can be sort of 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years, I should say, of learning before you'd go through that assessment gateway. So the duration of apprenticeship ranges anywhere between a year and up to 5 years of learning before you go to endpoint assessment. And when you do get to endpoint assessment, that's your time to shine. That's where you can showcase your knowledge, skills, and behaviours you've learned along the way. It's what you've learned by being an apprentice, by coming to college, what your employers taught you, and it's your turn to shine. And that endpoint assessment could be a variety of things. It could be a project, a presentation, it could be a skills assessment done either on site or at college or in the workplace. That could be a professional interview. It is going to vary apprenticeship to apprenticeship. So each apprenticeship will have its own on-program learning, and it will have its own endpoint assessment. And the durations will change according to your apprenticeship you're looking at doing. If there is any questions on that model at the moment, if you stick anything into chat, that'd be great, and we can always pick that up as we go along.
You keep going, Lewis. I'll keep
Yeah,
an eye on the chat and I'll interject if
no
we get
worries.
things that we need to ask right now, but we'll come back to questions in a bit.
Perfect. So the entry criteria for our level 2 apprenticeship programs, we would be looking for you to achieve a 5 GCSEs grade 3 or a D, including English and maths. For our level 3 direct entry programs, we would be looking for you to have the 5 GCSEs a grade again, but with a 4 or a C. For anyone that's in the call looking at our higher level or our degree programs, you would need those GCSEs grade at 4 or C in English and maths, plus either A levels or have completed a level 3 apprenticeship. So I know one of the people on the call is currently one of our level 3 apprentices, who I'm assuming is looking to progress onto our level 6 degree. So for you, you'd need to finish your level 3 program. So fundamentally, it's what do you need to be an apprentice? Because there are some preset criteria which allow you to be an apprentice. And fundamentally, it's that we require you to have an employer. An apprenticeship is you getting potentially your first job. It's employment where the employer is supporting you to be an apprentice. And as part of that employment, we need you to be employed for a minimum of 30 hours a week. And that includes your time at college. And they need to employ you on a PAYE basis. So you can't be self-employed. You must be employed direct with them. And again, as long as you've got an employer that's supportive of that, you're employed PAYE and you're on 30 hours, as long as you meet the entry criteria, we would look to take you onto the program, as long as the employer is supportive of that. So actually, as an apprentice, there are some expectations we as a college have on you, because actually your time at college might be a day release, it could be a block release, it's going to depend on your program. But missing one day at college means that you've missed a whole day of developing your knowledge, skills, and behaviours. So your attendance and punctuality is vital. And remembering that when you're coming to college, you're there to represent your employer. So the behaviour you demonstrate at college will be fed back to your employer, because your employer, as part of their requirement, are paying you to attend college as part of your working week. And it's the true fashion of earn while you learn. They're paying you to be at college to learn. And to support you on your journey, we will give you a training officer. And our training officer industry specialists, they've come from a variety of backgrounds, and they're there to help you develop your skills, your knowledge, and your behaviours throughout your apprenticeship, as well as working with our tutors in the classrooms. And it's about making sure that you're doing the right thing for you as a young person potentially going on to an apprenticeship. But you should expect some things from us, because an apprenticeship is not just a one-way street. It's a partnership between us as the college, your employer, and you as the apprentice, to help you develop through work and actually develop on to become a skilled employee within your business. And that will include us as a college giving you your day release or your block release training. Your employer giving you 20% of your working week, equivalent to one day of study time, because that's what their requirement is of an employer, is to give you that time to learn. We will give you a training officer that will support you, and they will come out and visit you at least every 12 weeks to help you develop and make sure that you're on the right track and make sure that you're moving forwards. And where needed, English and maths. But one point I just want to pick up on is additional learning support, because we get questions quite regularly is, oh, I've got a learning need, I've got dyslexia, I need some help. Oh, that means I can't be an apprentice. It doesn't stop you at all. Additional learning support is an acceptable thing. I suffer from dyslexia. I know my slides today have been checked by one of my colleagues to make sure that they're right. At the end of the day, we all need help along the way. And if that's the case, please let us know. Because fundamentally, as a provider, we need to make sure we're supporting you along that journey. We're giving you that learning support. But also, when it comes to your endpoint assessment, we can ask your endpoint assessment organisation to take those considerations in hand. So if you need a writer or you need some extra time, we can put that case to them to make sure that you get it. So please don't be afraid if you've got a learning support need. Please just let us know, because we want to be able to help you along that journey. But I know from today's poll, sort of looking, not everyone's got an employer. And if you don't have an employer, the current climate is a bit more challenging. With COVID-19, it is making things a little bit more difficult to find apprenticeship opportunities. But what I would say is, think about what you're going to do instead. What could you go and do instead to fall back on? Is it something that you could look at doing one of our full-time study programs? Our full-time study programs will allow you to learn those knowledge and skills that you could then look to apply to an apprenticeship at a later date. So that's something maybe to consider. The other thing to do is, where can you find an apprenticeship? And there's many opportunities, and the big one that I would say you need to think about is registering with the National Apprenticeship Service. And by going onto the National Apprenticeship Service, you can register what interest it is in terms of apprenticeship you're interested in, how far from where you live that you're able to travel, and it will highlight you any apprenticeship that's been put up on there that anyone's looking for an apprentice, from any training provider, whether that's us as a college, one of the private training providers, or another college, or independent. And that gives you an opportunity to find out any apprenticeships that are there. But if not, or if you need some help with that, please speak to our careers team. Mandy in our careers team and the rest of the ladies in careers will willingly work with you. They're there to help and support you along that journey, and that might be advising you and giving you some information, advice and guidance on where to find an apprenticeship, how to get your CV ready, or it might be actually helping you to find those apprenticeships or getting registered with the National Apprenticeship Service. So one of the things I would say is, if you do have that, please get in touch with careers or want any of that help, because they are there to help and support you through this journey. And as we say, the National Apprenticeship Service, the website has come up on the screen. I think, Steve, they do get sent these slides, don't they, in a recording? Yeah. So from there, you'll be able to get the web link to the National Apprenticeship Service. And as I say, that is one of the big places that everybody uses. It's a requirement for all of us to publish those on there. But also, there is the opportunity to have a look at other places. Kent Jobs, Indeed, are really good places at where you may find people put up a vacancy as well as on the National Apprenticeship Service, just to open up other opportunities. But it is also about potentially you doing some research, looking for other employers, and actually speaking to employers to go, is it something you'd consider? And it might be that over the summer you can look at work experience, and then they may convert that to an apprenticeship, because we do get about 25% of our apprentices come from where they've done work experience with an employer first. So it's something just to consider. But as we say, careers are there, the careers team are there to help and support you along that way. So if you do have an employer, one of the big things that we would say is, please make sure you apply online, you apply to the college. But also, if you can send an email through to us as the apprenticeships team with your company details on, it allows us to then make contact with you and your employer to invite you both in to do the apprenticeship sign up. It is something that we need to speak to them and to yourself, just to make sure that we've answered that. We've checked everything is correct and everything's in place for both you and them to support you. And Steve, that comes to the end of my slides. So what I was going to ask is, you able to play the video of Millie, just to give people an insight from one of our apprentices of how their journey's been.
Of course. Yep. So keep thinking about those questions. I'm just going to show you another short video so you can hear direct from Millie, one of our apprentices. And then certainly I've got some questions for Lewis, but I'll pick up on anything else that you've got coming through on the chat as well.
I got my apprenticeship at Invictus Grammar School, as after I finished my A-levels, I went back to help at events such as Sports Day, where I took pictures and made them a little video, and they loved it, so they offered me a 2-year apprenticeship. So my favourite parts are taking pictures of all the events which go on the website and social media, also filming promotional videos. I really enjoy working and studying at the same time. I came to college for a term to do some core units and exams. Now I continue at a workplace. My assessor Steve comes in every month and sets me more work to do, that I have designated time to do it at my workplace, but also do it at home. My parents were extremely supportive of my apprenticeship, as I was unsure of what I wanted to do when finishing sixth form, but now I love my apprenticeship and I'm really happy. Definitely, I love my apprenticeship. You get to learn while you earn. Also, I get so much help and encouragement throughout my journey.
Okay, so that was Apprentice Millie's journey in her own words. But Lewis, I just want to pick up on a question that came through on the chat while you were talking. I think probably you got onto this right at the end of your presentation on your last slides. But we had a query about, okay, well, you've talked about what to do if I haven't got an employer, but I have got an employer. So I think you started to talk about how we bring those employers on board with us and set up those partnership arrangements with the college. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to what you said about that?
So I think the big thing is we need to make sure that anyone who has got an employer has applied to the college direct. So we've got you recorded on the system. By emailing in your employer details, it allows us to start speaking with the employer direct to get them to agree into the funding and the terms of an apprenticeship. What we then do is we'll make contact with both the apprentice and the employer to do the sign up, and that sign up would include us asking the apprentices to do initial assessment for English and maths, as well as a skill scan in their vocational area. But that all comes once we've ensured that we've got you on the system and we've spoken with the employer to make sure they're fully on board with supporting you.
And sorry, Lewis, go on. I didn't mean to.
No, after you, Steve.
I just want to say, so if I was in that position where I wanted to introduce my employer to the college, let's say I needed to do a little bit of groundwork with them first to say, okay, well, look, apprenticeships might be an option that would work for me in terms of my development, but could also really benefit the business. What advice would you give someone who's in that position where actually they're right at the start of this journey and they need to have that conversation with the employer, perhaps before they apply to us?
So a couple of bits I would say is just making sure you're making the employer aware that the apprenticeship is there to help support both the apprentice and the business. And actually, I would say in the first instance, if the employer has got any queries or questions or wants some more information, is to get in touch with us as a team. Because as a team, we're here to support not just the apprentices, but also the employers through that journey. So we can give them all the information around what it means in terms of both funding, any costs, also about any government support that the employer might get towards supporting the cost of the training, and also working with them to set up all the digital accounts that they need to do. So actually giving them the information about the fact that you're there to work with them, earn while you learn, and then potentially getting them to contact us direct means we can give them all that information as well.
So we can actually be helpful really at those very early stages in terms of helping an employer understand what an apprenticeship is. Before they're making any commitment, we can help them understand what it is and what the benefits are to their business.
Yes, we can, yeah.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of that work already.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. I hope that gave you enough of an answer to that question. Just while we're waiting for any others to come through, Lewis, I've got a few to ask you if that's okay. You talked about entry criteria for the programs, and you talked about the importance of things like English and maths as part of the overall new approach to the standards. What would be the case? So if I really wanted to do an apprenticeship and I've got an employer who's really supportive, but I don't quite hit those entry criteria, what position am I in then? Is there anything we could do about that?
So within the apprenticeship team, we have dedicated English and maths tutors that are there to work with you and support you through that journey. What we would look to get you to do is to do an initial assessment in English and maths to see where your start position is, because we don't want to set you up to fail, because we've got to try and get you through that too much maths from the very beginning. So please don't think it's a problem, because it wouldn't be. But what we would say is, in the first instance, make us aware, let us do an initial assessment with you. We can run some early maths and English training with you to start to develop those skills before you might launch fully into your curriculum learning.
So what I'm hearing, and I just want to repeat this for clarity, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Lewis, that if we get to August and GCSE results are published and I haven't quite got what I would have expected or what I would have needed to come onto an apprenticeship, then actually the best thing to do is just talk to the college in the first instance, because it's not necessarily a position that we give up all hope of progressing onto an apprenticeship. Is that what you're saying, or
that's correct,
am I misunderstanding?
Yeah. No, that's correct. Yeah, speak to us, talk to us, and we can always look at it then on an individual basis to see where you might have not quite hit what you expected, and let's see what we can do to get you to the point where we would be able to take you on fully.
Okay, I think overall, from the college's perspective, and I've mentioned this in a few of the webinars that we've been doing this week, it's ultimately our responsibility to make sure that we bring you onto the right program that will help you get the career development that you're hoping you'll get from your studies with us, but also at the right level, because we absolutely want you to succeed. Lewis, I'm just going to pick up on a question that's come in here. So if I got a pass in English and maths, I will not need to do initial assessments. Is that right?
So we would still ask you to do an initial assessment because it's a funding requirement that we've checked that when we bring you onto a program. But it's there more just to make sure that we've checked and we're just looking at that we know where you are, not just at qualification point, but also where you are now after you've sat those exams, because we do have a number of apprentices that join that potentially are coming back to us as mature students in their 30s. So it's also about just seeing that their skills are still around that level, but it's only used as a mechanism to make sure that we put in extra support where needed with the group to make sure everyone's up to the right level when you get started on some of the higher level content that may come with some of the apprenticeships.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Lewis. I've got a couple more questions for you, but I don't want to hog the time that we've got
Yep.
left together. So I'll ask you, but it may be that we take a detour if we get some questions coming through from anyone else that's in the chat today. So you mentioned endpoint assessment as being something that's new and is part of the new standards. And you talked us through what some of those endpoint assessments could look like. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about that, or do you think it's important that people understand at this stage?
I think the big thing is it's remembering that endpoint assessment is new to everybody. We're not going to just put you straight in for an endpoint assessment. An endpoint assessment is an agreement with both the apprentice, the employer, and us as the training provider that you're ready, because that's your opportunity to showcase. And it may be that we need to defer that endpoint assessment by a short period just for you to carry on working on skills. But also we will work with you to make sure that when you're doing your learning, that everything we're doing supports you towards that. So I know, for example, in carpentry, which we're looking at some endpoint assessments towards the end of the year, our students in that area do a 6-hour skills assessment plus a professional interview for an hour. Actually, what we've done along the way is at Christmas, we run a mock assessment where we got employers to come in and all the apprentices were given a 3-hour task to do under time conditions like you would get in your endpoint assessment. And we had 3 employers walking around talking to you, asking you questions. So we are making sure that when we're delivering your learning, you might think, oh, why have I got another phase test this term? That's there because it's helping you to prepare for endpoint assessment. So we're just supporting you along that journey along the way.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks, Lewis. And it's really interesting from someone that doesn't work as part of your team, and I'm learning about apprenticeships all the time, and I'm learning from this call as well. The fact that the employers are involved right up to that point of endpoint assessment and making decisions around that as well, I think that's fantastic. So I'm involved right from the start, right to the end of the apprenticeship in that partnership agreement with the college and the apprentice. It's fantastic. You mentioned a couple of times actually that I think you used the term degree apprenticeships, and you also referred to one of our current apprentices who might be on the call today, who's at level 3, but might be looking at level 6. So, could you tell us about what the progression options are? Basically, you talk about degree apprenticeships. That puts us in mind of university and higher level study. So, how does higher level study work with apprenticeships?
So it works in very much the same way as a level 2 or 3 apprenticeship, in a sense that what you'd normally get is a day release learning to go and do a part-time degree. So instead of you doing a part-time degree where your employer just puts you on that and that's it, and they just send you to do university training, by doing it within an apprenticeship, they also give you that additional support of the 20% off the job to do that. We as a college are working with CIPD, so we deliver the HR apprenticeship at level 5. And we've also working with Christchurch University to deliver the level 6 degree apprenticeship in engineering. So what we've done with Christchurch is we've agreed a partnership where you do 18 months worth of study with us at the college, doing the beginning part of the degree apprenticeship, and then you transfer to Christchurch and go to Canterbury University, Canterbury campus on the university, to finish the last 18 months of the degree within the apprenticeship. And then we support you to the endpoint assessment. But with that particular program, you get a full degree, and you also get the degree apprenticeship certificate as well within it. But actually, from us, We've got learners that are working on the level 3 construction and the built environment programs and surveying that are going to some of our other partner universities, so the University of Kent, South Bank, that we do referrals to, where they're moving on to that degree program where they do day release on the degree and fundamentally earn while they learn and support their development with their employer working with them.
Okay, that's brilliant. Lewis, our time is running out rapidly. So
Yep.
what I'm going to do is just make some closing comments. I'm going to skip through some of the bits that I was planning to talk to you about this afternoon, just because it's far more important that you actually got to hear from Lewis and to find out directly about our apprenticeship program. So I just want to leave you with a bit of contact information, really. So if you do need some more help, some more advice, some more information, then we've got a few different ways where you can contact us. So what I'd recommend you do is contact our course inquiries team. And if they can't help you directly, they'll make sure that you're put in touch with Lewis and his team to make sure you've got the right support that you need. But our course inquiries team, you can reach on the telephone on 01634 40 20 20. If you'd rather use the live chat service on our website, then feel free to do that, and that goes straight through to that team too. Or you could email course.inquiries@midkent.ac.uk. But as I said, our time is gone. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to attend this afternoon. And thank you, Lewis, for giving up your time to come and speak to us about apprenticeships as well. I hope for those of you who are watching, it's been a really useful session. And I just want to leave you with one thought, which is that we really look forward to seeing you in September. Okay, so thanks very much for your time this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.